Samastapakaya cha dharmasya sarvadharma swarupine avatar varishtaya Ramakrishna te namaha. Salutations to Bhagavan Ramakrishna, the establisher of all dharma, being the embodiment of all dharma. We're going to discuss today Sri Ramakrishna, the archetypal image of avatars. It's one of the greatest mysteries in the universe, of course. How does God descend? In the Bhagavad Gita, we get, though I am unborn, immutable, the Lord of all beings, yet by suppressing Maya, I come into being. Ajopi san avyatma. So this mystery has fascinated us, not only religious people. How does something that comes with such power that it impacts humanity for thousands of years? Of course, this is for those who believe there are many avatars. And there are, of course, naturally, they are saying there's only one avatar. Or there are no avatars. We leave those people aside, those who believe. But common sense tells us that if one thing has happened before, it's going to happen again. We see it all over nature. Again, if we apply the dynamics of evolution, everything evolves, and that means an avatar also evolves. Every time the avatar comes to meet new challenges, to retune his message, we will look into this phenomena. Because in the as he says, there are many births that I have passed through, and you also, Arjuna. I know them all. You do not know it. So he comes with knowledge of his past. Unlike us, we don't know our past. We do only in this time frame. And most of it has been forgotten. An incident took place in Dakshineshwar when Sri Ramakrishna, they are talking about him as something extraordinary. And in India, anything extraordinary means they make you an avatar. So that's the reason why there are so many avatars in India. Everybody claims, I am an avatar of this. So don't be surprised at the number of avatars. So they were discussing. So Sri Ramakrishna, he told Mathur Babu. This is what. So Mathur Babu dismisses, no. There are only 10 avatars. So he told Bhairavi Brahmani. He introduced Bhairavi Brahmani. Bhairavi Brahmani was his teacher. She was a very learned nun, and he told her, I've told him, and he's saying there are only 10. How can you come as 11th here? So Sri Ramakrishna, after he told her this, the Bhairavi Brahmani, she says, why does not the Bhagavata speak first of 24 principal avatars, and then later speaks of innumerable avatars? And then she says, the characteristics that we find in Sri Ramakrishna is also found in the life and the body and mind of Chaitanya. These things cannot be duplicated simply by just ordinary souls. What are those signs? Those signs are called the Mahabhava, the great Bhava. These are 19 such spiritual emotions that an ordinary jiva, ordinary soul like us, will not be able to handle. That upsurge of divinity and the divine emotions, the spirituality, will just break our bodies. It only can be held in the bodies of avatars. So she says, and she's saying, you find the similarity of characteristics. Also, we find another aspect of these avatars. They said, I will come again. One time is not enough. They'll come again. So let's look at the word archetype or archetypical image of an avatar. Why Sri Ramakrishna is an archetype? What is an archetype? So it's like a typical example it's called an archetype. Also, we find a repeated theme or a motif in literature and arts, etc., over time. We also find in Jungian psychology a primitive mental image inherited from the earliest human ancestors that is a part of the collective unconscious. So, I'll just to fix it in your mind. A primitive mental image inherited from the our earliest human ancestors, and it's present in the collective unconscious of the race or the humanity, whatever. So this is what is archetype is. I'll say, okay, so what's a stereotype? Stereotype is a little more kind of used negatively, in the sense of it's a kind of oversimplified image or an idea of a particular person or thing. You just take it, oversimplified. Oh, this is a stereotype. No, we also are stereotypes of something. And then we have something called a prototype. And what's a prototype? Yeah, the original model from where the subsequent things or machines, etc., are engineered. So we have these. So remember, archetypes are now internal mechanisms. They have been inherited by the human mind from the collective store of human knowledge. If you look at our lives, Oh, it's very predictable. And we think we are so unique. We're the only unique things in the whole world, predictably. Even thinking that we are unique is predictable. Everything, our lives run in a pattern. There's no doubt about it. So the word image in the title, archetypal image, is an archetypal pattern. And it's not only the pattern in our lives, that means our physical life is patterned. You do the same thing over and over again. Your thinking also is in a pattern. Yes, like the history repeats itself, mistakes also repeat itself, we also repeat ourselves. And if you think, we are free, even that is a pattern. Thinking yourself, I'm free, that is also a pattern. And if we are run on patterns, that means society also runs on the same pattern. Oh, we are so unique. It runs in a pattern. The society. Why? Because nature runs on patterns. You cannot get out of this pattern. Everything. Birth, growth, disease, decay, death, etc., thinking, everything runs. So this is a pattern. The pattern of nature. So what are these archetypes, these images? Okay. Well, now you know what it is. These images, we follow subconsciously, we are led down to follow a pattern. You can't get out of that. You can, of course. But these are part of your consciousness. Part of a life, part of a consciousness. Simply, it's impossible to get out of this. Let's do something new today. That also is the pattern. So culturally, socially, individually, collectively, following. Then you understand why are these ants following a kind of a straight line and go there and come back, and there's pattern. Something that moves us. These archetypes, these patterns move us to go into the particular way of behavior. How is that? Yeah, our brains also, it's a pattern recognizing machine. You think, okay, we have the most superior brain. I don't know about that. It's small compared to a blue whale's brain. Yeah. And there are some without any brains, but they are living their lives. I mean, species, of course. This external world, the brain it's sitting in a dark box. Yes, you don't think it is all light inside. It's sitting in a dark box inside. And things from outside come in, and it uses memory and past patterns to understand this. Good. It not only does that, it also creates your reality. Yes, perception is a recreation of what is out there. It's a very complex thing. And whether you call it a priori, Immanuel Kant or you can say, Plato's ideas, or even Kant's categorical imperatives, we are forced to see things through certain structures in the mind. And that's how we perceive the world. So much for patterns. These are the images in our mind. Why? Because, Carl Jung, he gave 12, you can say, primeval archetypes. I'll read some of them. We might fall into one of them. Lover, hero, outlaw, magician, explorer, sage, creator, innocent, caregiver, jester, everyman, and ruler, etc. We behave in these archetypal modes. There's no doubt about it. In 2 Sundays before this, we spoke about Jung's archetypes. And there we had discussed there are 2 things, the self and the ego. Jung distinguishes them separately. The ego is not a self, the self is not the ego. They're both linked. And then we have something called a persona and something called the anima and animus. The male and the female, they're internal, persona is external, the ego is the external part, the self is the internal part. So what do? They give you structure. Yeah. So it's very interesting the way he tried to understand human life, nature, etc. And as we had discussed, he brought in the idea of a yantra or the mandala, where it's a pattern. And you can understand your life if it is put in the pattern of a mandala or a yantra. So when you're talking about Sri Ramakrishna's archetypal image, Sri Ramakrishna's archetypal image or pattern was not human. It was divine. He appeared human, but everything about him was divine. When you look at them and their doings, first thing is there are some historical problems. Then we inquire whether the earlier ones were historical or no. Well, we can say one thing, historical or no, they molded history. Their lives seem so mythological, and yet they are the kernel of all mythology. Every mythology and ritual and prayer, etc., has been inspired by them, by these avatars. So from here itself, these are indications that there has been something which has thrown such a power over humanity, over the world, for thousands of years, and still going strong. From this itself, you can say, there's a reverse, let's say, reverse inference. The mind, also, the brain also does that. You can infer there must be something there, because if it is an illusion, it will dissipate. Because why? Test it with time. And test it with ideas, illusion goes away. But there are some things that tested with time and contrary ideas, and yet they have stood that test of time. So there has been something that has been coming to us, as the Lord says in the Bhagavad Gita. What is that? Oh, whenever there is a crisis, I do come. So to all appearances, the avatars, they look like human. Just, they look like. but internally they are not. They have a completely different pattern, archetypes. This is what. So we find there are, I can bring out a host of archetypes, but I'll deal with just two, and two, the most important archetypes. I'll discuss the secondary ones also. So we know in Sri Ramakrishna's life, when he attained that highest state, the Divine Mother had said, stay in Bhavamukha, stay on the borderline between the absolute and the relative. That's what it means. And we've seen in his life that if you want to understand Sri Ramakrishna, you have to understand him as straddling the two realms of the absolute and the relative universe. So he understood this when this was the third time the Divine Mother, she told him, stay in Bhavamukha. Then in that state, he understood if he would have stayed in the state of identity with Brahman, body wouldn't have lasted and he would have gone. His body was going to be an instrument. And in that state, he had a realization. And he says, he came to know his former lives. Yeah, there is a power called a Jati Smaratva. That is the remembrance of past lives. That he was an avatar. It's called the Adhikarika, the person who is competent. And then you say, he is eternally pure, free, conscious being. And yet, he has now assumed a body and performed austerities in order to rescue the modern age from the decline of religion. In the Bhagavad Gita, he is saying, Yada yada hi dharmase, whenever there is a decline in religion, I embody myself to stop, to stem the decline. And then he says, with a view to accomplishing some special purpose of the Divine Mother, who had brought him down to earth into a poor Brahmin family, devoid of grandeur, etc., etc. So in that state, he knew, in the state of Bhavamukha, that is the state between, as I said, when he is identified in two ways. One side is the absolute Brahman, the Sat Chit Ananda, existence, consciousness, bliss. And on this side, that same Sat Chit Ananda is appearing as the cosmic mind and the cosmic body of that Satchidananda. So he has identified this both. So this is, it has never been discussed before in the scriptures, the way Sri Ramakrishna experienced and the way Swami Sharadananda wrote about it. This is the typical archetypal state of avatar. If he was like this, then all the other avatars also, they were in that state. Of course, if it is now, it has happened before also. And it will happen later also. So all avatars, they are stationed there in the middle. Okay. Even like Christ said, before Abraham, I was. He said, and he also said, I'll come again. All right. So apparently they appear like human beings, but they are not human beings. Sri Ramakrishna himself said he was Rama, who was Krishna, and now comes Ramakrishna. And also he says, this time Chaitanya has come in the body of Nityananda. The Chaitanya and his companion Nityananda. So we find I'm trying to just link things for our comprehension. Who declared him? Now, how was he detected? First, as we have seen, his teacher, Bhairavi Brahmani, she was a scholar in the scriptures. And she convinced Mathur Babu to convene a conference of all Pandits. Now, these Pandits are not like our Pandits, like they will read and then they will explain things. These Pandits were spiritual aspirants of a very high order. They had already attained very lofty heights of spirituality. They were invited. So we'll discuss three of them. The first one was Vaishnava Charan and Pandit Gauri. Vaishnava Charan, Pandit Gauri. They already had a lot of powers, through their spiritual practices, everything. So just before the conference, since Vaishnava Charan, the main, was late in coming from Calcutta, Pandit Gauri was already in Dakshineshwar staying with Sri Ramakrishna. So they go towards the conference hall, which is the Nath Mandir of, not Nath Mandir, it's called a Nath Mandir, of course, in front of the Kali temple in Dakshineshwar. There's a big hall where devotees sit down and they can see it's separated from the main temple, Sanctum Sanctorum. They all assembled. And as they were going to make pranams or paying obeisance to the Divine Mother, Vaishnav Charan entered. And Sri Ramakrishna made obeisance and he was coming out. And Vaishnav Charan bowed down to him. And Sri Ramakrishna was in that high, lofty state. He sat on his shoulders. And Vaishnav Charan spontaneously began chanting hymns in Sanskrit to Sri Ramakrishna, liking him to his chosen ideal. And then after the ecstasy was over, they come and assemble. So Pandit Gauri, the other Pandit, saying, there won't be any debate today. Everybody had come for the debate. Why? Because he has been granted grace. He is endowed now with divine power. I will not be able to defeat him in arguments. Let's have it some other time. But then they were discussing, and then suddenly Pandit Gauri also had that tremendous insight. See? Saying, this Vaishnav Charan Pandit and me, we don't disagree really about Sri Ramakrishna. Again, there's no point in discussing this. We both agree. No point in disputing. And so they discussed a few scriptural issues and they broke for the day. Now, Sri Ramakrishna asked Pandit Gauri, you see, Vaishnav Charan, he says that I'm an incarnation. What do you think? Did he says, okay, no? And then he's saying, it's very significant. oh, he has belittled you by calling you an avatar. But you are the source of all avatars. Now, Sri Ramakrishna says, oh, you have overtaken even Vaishnav Charan. And he says, Pandit Gauri says, you come down to this world from age to age to do good to humanity. The other avatars come with your power to accomplish the work, he's saying. And then he says, what made you say this? Saying, I've got scriptural evidence and I can challenge anyone on this point. So Sri Ramakrishna was, he's not only an avatar, but the source of all avatars. Here. There was another Pandit called Padmalochan. Now, Padmalochan, he was one of the greatest Pandits then there. He was the court Pandit of the king of Burdwan. Those who know, the kind of a county near Calcutta. And he had come to Calcutta because he was ill and undergoing some treatment. So Sri Ramakrishna had one time gone to see him, and the Pandit, like I said, these were not just ordinary bookworms. They were great spiritual aspirants. And he was he was specialized in Vedanta. But he secretly practiced some tantric disciplines. And he had got powers, he had visions, he had got powers, etc. So when they first met, the Pandit was charmed seeing Sri Ramakrishna. And when Sri Ramakrishna used to sing the hymns of the Divine Mother, the Pandit used to weep. And also he saw Sri Ramakrishna repeatedly going into this samadhi. And saying, this is a great soul. But his insights were still not firmly fixed. How is this person, as described in the scriptures, either the scriptures are wrong or this person is faking it, something like that. Now the Pandit had a secret, only he knew and no one else, not even his wife, nobody knew. Before he could get into these debates, and very polemical, you won't believe it. It used to last for hours and hours and of a very high quality, not the usual squabbles. It's called a vada, through which you get knowledge. So he had a secret and the power, and it was given to him by the Divine Mother. That he had a water pot with a long sprout, and he had as they call the gamcha, a towel. Before the debate, he used to walk about here and they take that water from that sprouted pot and wash his face and wipe it. And then come and sit. And then nobody could beat him. So Sri Ramakrishna, one time he goes and he hides that water pot and the towel. And he's looking for, where is it? Then he immediately understood, when he knew that Sri Ramakrishna had hidden, this secret was known only to me, given by the Divine Mother. He knows it. And then he says, he started shedding tears. And then he says, his astonishment knew no bounds. The Pandit began to regard him as an avatar. So this was where even with Pandit Gauri, he used to come to a debate and he used to shout loudly a Sanskrit, Ha Re Re Nila Lambo Lambo Darodaka Kamyami Sharanam. Very loudly. It is part of Shankaracharya, hymn. And so loudly, the other Pandits used to somehow be seized with fear. So when he had come to Dakshineshwar, he began yelling that Sanskrit line, prayer. And Sri Ramakrishna again saying something, made me shout even louder. And then the Pandit shouted even louder. And then it was like a shouting match that was going on. People all came and they found. And when Sri Ramakrishna shouted over him, immediately the Pandit lost his power. So here we see Sri Ramakrishna knew what was there in the minds of even these great Pandits, these spiritual aspirants. So much for that. So this is the first archetype. That is, he was divine. He never had human archetypes. He was divine. Okay. And from this itself you can understand, as I said, that he was standing on the threshold of the relative and the absolute reality. That implies all avatars, they stand on that platform. The next archetype, that's this given by Swamiji, saying each person in his lifetime runs through the history of that person's race. Not only race, of humanity. When the child is born, you say, it's like a savage. It has to be, that child has to now grow and reach that stage where now humanity has arrived. But only in the case of humanity has taken thousands and thousands and thousands of years, the child goes through it quickly. And then the real growth begins. That's interesting. Now, just take, for instance, not only the life or the history or the entirety of the human experience. And as we have said, that these archetypes are images which have been carried forward from our ancestors, which are in the collective unconscious. So this child who's born reaches this, lives the history of that of humanity and comes up here. Now, Swamiji says, now take for instance, not only humanity, but all living creatures. All the living creatures. But what are they going towards to perfection? So you think, I don't care for my past, please be careful about that. Because you've lived your life of your entire humanity and you've come up to here. So, and we are going forward towards where? Towards perfection. But in the human child, the human child is only born, we are child of nature. We quickly run through our own the human history and we come up to this. Now he says, there are certain people who come who live the life of the entire creation. Not only humans, but all life. They come, they are born, and in one lifetime, they reach the very end of all life, where it's going to end up in perfection. Such a man, he's saying, was recently born. These are the incarnations. So, what does the incarnation do? Everybody is saying, I'm an incarnation. Please, if you have these two things, then we'll consider you an incarnation. They have lived the entire life of not only human, but all species. And they have reached a perfection. And they themselves hold that perfection within themselves. So when we go, we can, if you want to get perfect, go up there to that avatar. This is the reason why we find avatars, you take them away from religion. What remains? Nothing remains. Try it out. The history of religion is nothing but the history of avatars. They have come with tremendous power. What powers? They hold perfection in themselves. And that's why why? Because they have lived the entire past, present, and the future of all life. They have reached. This is something, these are the two main patterns in their lives. Yes, this is something, this is the reason why even as they say, he becomes the avatar, he or she, they become the way. Like I think even the Bible is saying, I am the way, the truth, and the life. You crucified there, couldn't help himself. Look at this. I don't think he had another set of clothes also. But he says, I am the way. I am the way. Yeah. They knew what they were saying. We say many things. They don't just say things. They are those things. So they show us the way. So Swamiji says that if our lives and our in nature and society and everything forms a pattern, and as we've seen, avatars also, then they form a pattern. They go through the same thing. It cannot be something different. So these are the two primary, you can say, patterns, archetypes in avatars. Now if you take, what are the secondary ones? Oh, they love everybody. Especially the poor. You will see it across all avatars. Especially the poor. And they kind of raise, they lift society. That great love. Then, truth. Yes. All of them, whatever they say, they mean, and it happens. Then they do not compromise with nature, with this administration, that administration, this power, that power, this empire. No. They are on their own. They draw people there. They will never compromise with truth. So that is a secondary archetype. Love, then truth, then there's no compromise. But sometimes we see, oh my God, they were so cowardly. They never said things what they were supposed to say. They knew how society would grow, how humanity would grow. And slowly and silently, Swami Vivekananda says, they kept on applying the remedies. They were not cowards like us. We are not greedy also. You dangle something in front of us and we have second thoughts. You coerce us and we break down. Message. And every message that they've given is, as I say, they come to fulfill, not to destroy. They never destroy the past messages. They just come to fulfill. And then, well, let's conclude. I could go on and on, but then... So this avatars, etc., is kind of fascinating study. Yes, very fascinating. And why are we so fascinated? Yeah, we get fascinated because if you want to understand yourself, your life, your deeds, your goal, better study an avatar. You can understand what you are through an avatar's life and times. That's why he's saying this is a divine play that he has. He sets the mold. Now you follow this. Can you understand your life? No. Okay, come and stand in front of the avatar, then they receive all the incidents and the teachings, etc., and you can understand your life. The avatar is like a mirror in front of you. Now you see yourself. That is what an avatar is. Okay. As I said, that it's not a human archetypes. A human archetypes make us fall into a pattern. And that pattern is repetitive. Repeats and repeats and repeats and repeats. You just can't get out of it. It has to be. Because pattern means that. And we are trapped. That's why you say, oh, we are trapped? Yeah, everything. Because we say things, things, cliched things, same thing. We do the same things. We eat the same thing. Everything is the same. So that's a trap. To come out of this trap, this pattern, it has to be replaced with a divine pattern. That is what an avatar does. He gets the divine. What? That God is real. God can be realized. And the religion is real. And this is a genuine search of the soul. As Swami Vivekananda says, the eternal relationship between the eternal soul and the eternal God. That is what is. So this, the greatest of all mysteries is now open for us. For us to what? To either emulate or do whatever you like to. But it's a awakening of your own divinity. All avatars come to awaken your divinity by taking you out from those archetypes, the primary to 12 ones, the hero, the sage, the creator, etc., etc. Bring out. This is how do they descend? That is going to be a mystery. And a mystery forever and ever. But If everything in this universe is a pattern, the avatar also come down. That is also predictable. Our lives are predictable. They come down. And we also come down. How we come down, we do not know. We have so many theories. How we are born in this world. Oh yeah. I mean, for those who are looking at birth as a spiritual kind of, from a spiritual viewpoint, it's a mystery. Otherwise, we know how we are born. And if we are born, we will die like that also. Then we don't need to discuss it. So if an avatar descends and we also descend, there must be some similarity in the mechanism. Obviously. Or a variant of that mechanism, or a higher aspect of that same mechanism that descends. Because avatar means that which descends. So, we are also, in a way, holding that divine archetypes deep within us. Yet we do not know it. It is smothered by that human archetype. Human life, human living, human running about, etc. etc. So if you want, when you understand an avatar, you peel back your human archetypes and come down to the divine archetypes within you. That is the secret of life and the world and of God and of soul and everything. If you can do that, yeah, you have understood everything. Om Shanti 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 Hari Om. We'll take these questions if they are. What is this? Okay. Please bless me. Okay. So we have another question. So we have 10 avatars, whereas some say 24. Is there a relationship between these numbers? Yeah, they kind of, they correspond. It's not completely disparate, some of them. And if you read the Gospel, there is one place where Sri Krishna and Arjuna in the chariot, and they're going saying, look at those bunches of grapes. Saying, yes, they're bunches of grapes. Go closer and see. And he goes closer and sees they're not bunches of grapes. They are Krishnas. Thousands and thousands of them on the tree of Brahman. Saying, many have come. And many will come in the future also. Don't, saying Swami Vivekananda said, don't close the book of God. God is continuously revealing itself. Swami, is the internal pattern of the avatar as the fundamental pattern of the nautilus that keeps getting stronger and wider every time a new avatar comes to the world? Well, yeah, if you bring a nautilus, that's the shell, you know. It has a repetitive pattern, predictable pattern. So, in a way, they come, yes, you could bring that kind of comparison. There are these ratios, you know. So, if you compare a nautilus shell, every time it comes, it grow a ring or something like that. So you can say, yes, it gets better and better. Only thing is get better and better because we are evolving higher and higher. And as humanity is getting better and better, the avatars also have to get better and better. Otherwise, he has to speak to us in our language. Since these avatar traits can be imitated by others, how can we tell if someone is truly an avatar? Could we just accept the scriptures without question? No, you don't have to accept the scriptures without question. Don't have to accept avatars also without question. This can be known, of course. There's something called, you can fake something, but for how long? You'll find you out. Everybody finds it out, and then it becomes very embarrassing. You cannot actually imitate these avatar traits. For instance, can you be standing between the threshold of the absolute and the relative? That's a very high state. In that state, the mind does not come down from here. Okay? And if you see that the person who's trying to imitate, his mind is on the lowest centers, then you know what it is. Because the body configurations, the telltale signs of that mind which is elevated are unmistakable. There is so much love and compassion for the entirety of creation, etc. This cannot be imitated. You can imitate for a few seconds or a few minutes, but it cannot be imitated. It's a real thing. How can we tell truly the avatars? Yeah. That's the reason why avatars don't come alone. Never. They come with a group, a specialized group of souls who first carry the avatar's message all across, and one who can detect it. So they authenticate the avatars. You and me, and we have to take this as as validation of the avatars, what his state of mind, his state of body, etc., etc. So don't just accept the scriptures without question. The scriptures themselves say you have to question the scriptures themselves. So don't be so gullible, because we are all, where religion is concerned, we are all gullible. So instead of examining your avatars and scriptures, you start with examining yourself. And you start examining, and you will find some of the things that we believe are all kind of so flimsy, false, illusory. So better get rid of this. Then you can start questioning the scriptures. Swami, is the internal pattern of the avatars as the fundamental pattern of the... Okay, we've done that. Okay, sorry. Like I said, the internal pattern of an avatar is divine. God is real. God can be realized. And they show you the way. What does it mean that Ramakrishna was the source of the avatars? Exactly, you know what it is. He is the source. As Pandit says, he is the source of all avatars. In that state, he is Ishvara. Ishvara is the source of all avatars. Ishvara is not something with hands and feet, etc. Ishvara is not only the source of avatars, Ishvara is the source of creation. And not only source, it's a distinct entity. An avatar, Ishvara, is not only the source, but also the being of this. How do you, like the Upanishads say, Tat Srishtva Tadevan, he created and he entered into it. So Ishvara is there within this. we can stop here. For the in-person questions, we can take it down here. Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Tat Sat Shri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu. Next Sunday, Raka will be speaking on the paradox of freedom. The Friday class before that is cancelled. We have cancelled that Friday class, 2 Friday classes. And Thursday is Gospel of Shri Ramakrishna, of Holy Mother from Tapovan. Wednesday is Ramakrishna's devotional teachings on Wednesday, 7 p.m.